was Father Mike like growing up, and what was growing up like for Father Mike?
Yeah, I would say that if you could sum it up in one word, I would say I was a punk, but it probably wasn't that much of a punk. So I would say this. I was raised in a Catholic family. So I had my mom and dad who both are Catholic and brought us all to church. I'm one of 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. And yeah, so when it came to faith, there was the rule that we have to go to mass every single Sunday. And I would say that the only reason my parents said only way you could get out of going to Sunday mass was if you're too sick to do anything for the rest of the day, too sick to do anything else. And so there were times when I disliked going to mass so much that I would pretend to be sick, get out of 1 hour of mass, but then have to sit in my room the entire rest of the day. This is, before devices, before phones, before computers, before TVs in rooms. Like it basically being in your room by yourself meant sitting on your bed doing nothing. And for whatever reason, I thought that was a good trade-off. Like I disliked going to mass so much that I thought, that's not bad. I got 1 hour free. Now I have the rest of the day in captivity, but at least I didn't have to go to church. And all of that changed. I remember I actually even had it must have been, 5th, 6th grade, somewhere in there, where one of our teachers, she was a substitute teacher, and she was playing Christian music at some point. And I was at a Catholic school, and she said, I said, oh, is this one of those? She played Christian music, and I said, are you one of those Jesus freaks? And I have no idea why. Where did I ever hear that phrase? My parents didn't talk like that. Where would I even say this? And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, this sounds like one of those Jesus freak songs. And she says, yes, I am. And you know what? One day you are going to be too. And I was like, no way. And she says, wait a second. Jesus is going to get a hold of you. And when he does, you just better watch out. And I was like, whatever. And then when I was about 15 or 16, I had this big moment of conversion, and where Jesus got a hold of me. And it started, it was pretty private, pretty personal. Wasn't in a group, wasn't through any like big, no one gave a talk. I didn't read a book. What happened was, I just had this personal awareness at one point of my own sin. I mean, that was what it was. I had heard what all the sins were for, my whole life growing up. And those were all, yep, I know what they are. They're on the list. They're on the tablets. But all of a sudden there was this awareness that, oh my gosh, that's what I do. Like sin is something that's in me now. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I can't just forgive myself. I can't just save myself. I need a savior. And it was like one of those bing, like, oh my goodness, that's what they've been telling me my entire life, is that Jesus is the savior. And I realized, oh my gosh, now I get what that means. I had been given the answer before I had the question. And I'd been given the lifeline before I knew that I needed it. And so in that moment, it was so clear. I knew I needed to pray. I knew I needed to go to confession. And so the prayer route started at one point. I can talk about that if you ever want to. But I remember confession, I didn't know how. I didn't know you were supposed to wait until Saturday to go. So I knew where the priest lived. And so I got on my bike and I rode across town 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, knocked on the priest's door. And I always say, of course, he was home because priests only work one day a week. And I said, Father, can I go to confession? Sure, come on in. I sat down on the couch and went to confession. And I remember walking out of that rectory, stepping on the front porch, and 3 thoughts were so clear in my mind. One was just, God, thank you so much. Because I had felt the weight of sin to a degree. I had felt that. And I just, God, thank you so much for you've completely forgiven me of all of my sins. My second thought was, God, if you ever want me to be a priest, I will hear anyone's confession anytime they ask. And I'd never thought about being a priest before. I mean, maybe when I was really, really little, but never entertained it seriously. But that was the first time I ever just, God, if you want. So the first 2 thoughts, one, God, thank you so much. Second, if you ever want me to be a priest, I will hear anyone's confession whenever they ask. My third thought was, oh, she's really cute. Like, so that started this battle of like, gosh, what do you want me to do, Lord? But then, I did read some books and did encounter the truth of Jesus in the Eucharist in a way that just blew me away. I encountered the reality of life of prayer that we're meant to be called into, that just can transform my life. But it all started, like Pope Benedict said in God is Love, where he says, being a Christian is not the result of an ethical choice or a lofty ideal. It's the result of an encounter with a person that gives one's life gives one's life a new horizon and sets it in a decisive direction. And I can trace so much back to stepping on that front porch and realizing, okay, Lord, from that moment you gave my life a new horizon and you set me in a decisive direction. And that was pretty big. of course, I had all the same things. I was still in sports and still loved high school. I was one of the weird people who liked high school, but that's a whole nother story.